Zarak's upper fist cracked through empty air hard enough to trigger the arena sensors. Maya Reeves had been standing in that exact spot a heartbeat earlier. Now the human's boots were skidding across the glowing floor while 47 delegations leaned forward. Zarak turned. Maya lifted 2 fingers. Try that sequence again. 3 days earlier, nobody in the Kalrathi Assembly Hall had expected the Terran delegation to matter. General Corfax had built the event around that assumption. He stood beneath the suspended lights in ceremonial armor, blue scales polished, voice carrying through the translation field as he introduced the warrior beside him. Zarak was enormous even by Kalrathi standards. 4 arms, heavy-plated shoulders, disciplined posture. Corfax listed 17 mastered combat systems, years of undefeated matches, and a record designed to silence challengers before they entered the floor. Then he opened the contest to the room. No one moved. The Thoraxian ambassador had nearly fallen asleep. The Prelian observers watched with their usual unreadable calm. Vexthar of the Galactic News Network had already decided the ceremony would produce nothing except another inflated military speech. A hand rose in the Terran section. Corfax stopped. A small human woman stood. "Lieutenant Maya Reeves," she said, "Terran Defense Force." Corfax stared at her for a moment. "You are accepting the challenge." "I am." The room broke into overlapping clicks, whistles, and translated whispers. Corfax softened his tone in the way powerful people did when offering someone a graceful retreat. "This is a live combat demonstration between trained specialists. You may have understood my invitation too broadly." Maya stepped into the aisle. "I understood it well enough." Zarak leaned toward Corfax and spoke quietly. The general translated with an amused tilt of his head. "My student would prefer not to injure you by mistake." "Then tell her I'll do my best to return the favor." That got Vexthar's full attention. The Terran ambassador looked as if he wanted to disappear beneath his chair. Corfax asked for the required waiver. Maya produced it immediately. His amusement faded. "You completed this before today." 3 days ago. The arena rose from the chamber floor in a ring of hard light. Medical drones activated along its edge. Bedding systems opened across private implants and public terminals. The odds against Maya climbed so quickly that Vexthar checked twice to make sure his display had not malfunctioned. Zarak began her warm-up. Every motion was clean, her lower arms guarded while the upper pair struck. She flowed from one stance into another without hesitation, each movement polished by years of repetition. Maya merely loosened her shoulders and tested the grip of her boots. The medical monitors showed her pulse holding steady. Corfax raised one hand. "Begin." Zarak crossed the space almost instantly. Her first strike cut toward Maya's head. Maya shifted sideways. A lower arm swept for her legs. She lifted one foot, let the attack pass beneath her, and stepped close enough to touch Zarak's shoulder plate. "Wand." Silence hit the hall. Zarak snapped around. Maya had already moved away. The next attack came in layers: high strike, low sweep, feint, double reach. Zarak's 4 arms turned the center of the arena into a closing trap. Maya kept finding the gaps. Not wide gaps, fractions. A shoulder turned too early. A foot planted half a beat before a strike. One arm dropped when another extended. Maya slipped through and tapped the middle of Zarak's chest armor. 2. The laughter and mockery were gone now. Corfax's hands tightened around the podium rail. Zarak changed her rhythm. For the first time, Maya had to retreat quickly. A forearm brushed her sleeve. Another strike passed close enough to move her hair. Zarak shortened her attacks, stopped overcommitting, and began blocking exits instead of chasing. Maya's breathing changed. Vexthar noticed. So did Zarak. She surged forward. All four arms closed at once. Maya dropped beneath them, rolled across the floor, and rose behind the Kalrathi warrior. Her palms stopped against the back of Zarak's neck. 3. Your left side opens when you commit to the grab. Zarak wheeled toward her with a sound deep enough to vibrate through the arena floor. This time Maya barely escaped. For nearly a minute, the contest belonged to Zarak. She drove Maya backward one measured step at a time. Maya stopped touching her. Stopped speaking, stopped looking comfortable. Her heel reached the illuminated boundary. Zarak advanced. Maya stepped forward instead of away. The decision broke the pattern. Zarak hesitated. Maya moved inside her guard. She could have struck. She did not. Corfax's voice cut across the chamber. Why did you stop? Maya remained facing Zarak. Because the answer is already on the floor. Corfax frowned. Explain. Your student is stronger than I am, faster too. If I tried to beat her by doing what she does better, I'd lose. Zarak's breathing slowed. Maya pointed toward the places where she had touched the armor. But she repeats choices, good choices, extremely polished ones. They're still choices I can study. Corfax looked toward Zarak. You claim repetition defeated her. No, prediction gave me chances. Adaptation kept me alive long enough to use them. Zarak lowered her arms. How long did you study me? 3 days, every public match and training record I could get. The warrior stared at Maya for several seconds. Then Zarak bent deeply at the waist. A formal Kalrathi bow. I yield. You reached me whenever you chose, and I could not force you into my fight. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted into translators. Betting systems flashed. 3 unlikely winners began receiving enormous payouts. Maya approached Zarak and held out her hand. Zarak examined the unfamiliar gesture before taking it. You had openings that could have caused damage, Zarak said. I came here to answer a challenge, not collect injuries. Corfax descended from the podium. The confidence he had worn at the beginning of the event had vanished. Lieutenant Reeves, I judged your species by how recently it entered our political sphere. That was an error. Maya glanced at Zarak. Then make the useful correction. Corfax's eyes narrowed slightly. Which is? Stop assuming different training means lesser training. 3 days later, Vexthar landed at a Terran facility on Terra Nova, looking for the hidden advantage behind Maya's victory. He found training rooms. Humans fought simulations that changed tactics without warning. They practiced boarding actions in shifting gravity. In another chamber, soldiers sat in silence while instructors monitored breathing and concentration. Captain Elena Vasquez walked beside him. We train the body, she said. We also train the part that decides what the body should do when the plan breaks. Lieutenant James Park showed Vexthar the analysis behind the arena match. The Terrans had been collecting public combat footage since joining the council. Zarak's habits had been mapped before Maya raised her hand. Their model gave Maya a strong chance of success if she could maintain the correct counters under pressure. Vexthar looked from the tactical display to Maya, who had entered halfway through the explanation. You knew she could be beaten. Maya shook her head. We knew where the opportunities might appear. That isn't the same thing. An urgent communication tone interrupted them. Corfax appeared above the central table. He looked as though sleep had avoided him for 3 days. Captain Vasquez, I have reviewed the engagement repeatedly. I have also examined the material your officers circulated afterward. Vasquez folded her hands behind her back. Corfax paused before continuing. My command made a strategic mistake. We confused humanity's short time among us with a lack of experience. We never bothered to examine what your people had already learned before reaching the stars. No one moved. Corfax's next words came slower. I am requesting a formal training exchange. Calrathi personnel need exposure to Terran adaptability. Your forces may also gain something from our endurance and strength disciplines. I propose we find out together. Vexthar felt the room change around him. This was larger than the duel. Maya had embarrassed an assumption in public. Corfax was now dismantling it himself. Vasquez looked toward her lieutenant. Maya gave one small nod. We'll participate, Vasquez said. On one condition. Neither side comes as the teacher, both come as students. Corfax bowed his head. Accepted. He looked directly at Maya. Zarek has asked that you be assigned to the first group. Maya smiled. Tell her I was going to ask the same. Before the transmission ended, 6 more requests were already entering the Terran network. 3 weeks later, Vexthar stood at a neutral training complex while observers from a dozen species filled the gallery. Maya and Zarak occupied the demonstration floor together. Zarak drove through a simulated barrier with raw force. Maya used the opening to redirect the opposing unit. When the scenario shifted unexpectedly, Maya altered the route and Zarak changed with her instead of returning to the original sequence. Their first duel had been about prediction. This was about learning faster than prediction could trap them. After the demonstration, younger warriors from both sides crowded around. Zarek corrected Maya's balance during a Calrathi hold. Maya immediately tried it again. Then Maya adjusted the angle of one of Zarak's defensive turns. Zarak repeated that too. Corfax watched from the edge of the floor. I thought your report would turn my humiliation into entertainment, he told Vexthar. I reported the useful part. Corfax gave a low, rough laugh. Humans are infecting you. The exchange did not remain small. 8 more species eventually joined. The joint program became the foundation of the Galactic Tactical Institute. 3 years later, Maya would command part of that institution beside Zarak and officers from worlds that once would not have considered Terran doctrine worth reading. Vexthar covered the expansion from its first day. He watched old rivals exchange instructors. He watched younger officers challenge inherited doctrines without treating tradition as worthless. He watched Corfax attend seminars in which Terran captains criticized Calrathi methods and Calrathi veterans criticized Terran ones just as freely. When Vexthar filed his last report on the program, the training floor was almost empty. Maya and Zarak remained near the center, arguing over the angle of a simulated boarding route. Zarak shifted one marker. Maya moved it back. Zarak moved it again. Maya laughed, picked up a second marker, and changed the entire route instead. For several seconds, Zarak stared at the new pattern. Then all 4 of her hands began rearranging the board. Behind them, the observation doors slid shut one by one, leaving 2 figures bent over the same glowing map.